Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here with a pretty different video from me. Some might view this as a negative video, but I am just viewing it as me voicing my opinion. So this is, as you could tell from the thumbnail and the title, I'm doing the anti-TBR tag. I am going to link the original creator's video. I believe Nicole in her books was the original creator of this book tag. I will also put all of the questions down in the description below if you want to do this book tag yourself. So as you can probably tell from the name of the tag, this is going to be questions all about books and authors that I don't want to read for one reason or another. So without further ado, let's just get into it. The first question is a popular book that everyone loves that you just have no interest in. And for that one, this one's gonna be kind of a random book, but that's gonna be The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. Let me start this by saying I have no ill will towards this author or towards this book or the people that love this book, because I know so many people on BookTube will not shut up about how amazing this book is. However, this is one of those books that whenever I hear anyone talk about it on BookTube, I swear it goes in one ear, out the other. Basically, all I know about this book is that it's about our main character whose mother commits suicide either at the beginning of the book or before the book starts. And I think she ends up going to Taiwan to visit family there and to get more of a sense of who her mother was. I'm not really sure, but I just have no interest in reading it. Even though everybody just raves and raves about it, it's just not a book that I think I'll ever pick up. Also, let me insert the obligatory disclaimer here. If you love these books or these authors that I'm talking about, sorry, not sorry. These are just my opinion. Next question is a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. So I'm gonna be real with you guys. I don't have an interest in reading most classics, so I'm not really gonna name any. The funny thing is, the first book that popped into my mind when I read this question is the Bible. Like, even though I was raised Catholic, like, that is a book that I will never read. Like, that would be the most shocking thing ever if I actually read the entire Bible. But yeah, classics usually don't really appeal to me. I've only really enjoyed a couple, namely Little Women by Louisa May Alcott and Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. The only other classic that I'm actually excited about reading at some point is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and that is it. So this next question has two parts to it. Basically, the first one is an author that you have no interest in, and then a problematic author that you have no interest in. So I'll start with author first. I'm gonna name Jasmine Guillory. Now, this author may be seen as a little bit problematic because I remember, I don't remember the specifics, but I remember seeing her do some interviews where she claimed to be this innovative author in the romance community when that's totally not the case. And none of her romances sound good to me, like the plots or anything like that, and no one I follow has given any of her books 5 stars, so I just have no interest. In terms of problematic authors, I have quite a few floating around in my head. The first one, we have to acknowledge J.K. Rowling, of course. She writes under a different name now, which is odd. Like, why wouldn't she just write under her name? I guess because she realizes how problematic she is for a lot of people. I don't know. Like, she's trying to trick readers into reading her works. I don't know. I think she writes more like adult mysteries now. No interest in reading her. Also, Stephen King. I literally do not ever want to pick up any of his books. First of all, he's kind of a trash person. And the way that people talk about his books, they just don't sound all that good to me. I've also heard that his books have problematic things in them. I can also vaguely recall someone telling me that one of his books in particular has the N-word numerous times, and that's just not necessary. And then I remember in his book, It, there is a really yikes scene pertaining to minors. And I've also heard that all of his books are way too long, or at least most of them are. So like, yeah, I'm never gonna pick up his books. And I've also heard that there's just so many other authors that write horror so much better than him, but he's just a really famous name at this point. The next question is about authors you have tried that you have decided never to pick up their books again. And for these authors, it's not necessarily that these people are problematic, it's just their books don't really work for me. The first author I'm going to mention is Lisa Jewell. She writes mystery thrillers, but the two, or I think I've tried reading 3 of her books at this point. The books that I have tried reading are all more literary fiction with mysteries thrown in. I was pretty bored by all of the books I've tried by her. I don't think I've given any of them more than 3 stars. Another author is Alicia Rye. She is someone that I love her as a person. I follow her on Twitter. I think I follow her on Instagram as well. But I have read 2 of her books at this point, The Right Swipe and then Girl Gone Viral. I actually really enjoyed The Right Swipe, but Girl Gone Viral really didn't work for me. Again, I was bored. There should have been more romance, and instead it focused way more on like family issues and things like that. And the way that I've heard people talk about her books, it sounds like that is a common thing with her romance novels, is that they focus way more on other things than the romances, and that just does not work for me. Another author I'm going to mention is LJ Shen. Now, I adored Vicious, which I actually own a physical copy of, but I forgot to grab it. That was one of my favorite romances of 2020, actually. However, I've read 3 more of her books, was kind of underwhelmed by them. And it sounds like more and more of what she's releasing is just not great. She's been kind of shady with who she chooses to give arcs to. Apparently, she will not give arcs to people that have given her books less than like 4 stars, no matter how popular these reviewers are. So I find that kind of odd. One more author I'm going to quickly mention is Samantha Shannon. I read The Priory of the Orange Tree a couple of years ago, and upon reflection, I do think that was a waste of my time. It's an adult fantasy that's very complicated. I don't even know how I got through it, because complicated high fantasies don't usually really work for me. But there were dragons involved, so I think that's why I trucked through that book. But her writing is not for me. I was not a fan of the romances that were included in that book, and I know that she is the author of like the Bone Season series. Next is genre or genres that you have no interest in. There's just a few. I'm usually a pretty open-minded reader. If something interests me, like if the plot interests me, I'll usually try it out. But these genres really just don't appeal to me. First and foremost, like I already mentioned, magical realism. My mind does not work with magical realism. Also, women's fiction a lot of the time does not work for me, especially books that are marketed as romances but they turn out to be women's fiction novels. That really annoys me. Also, really dark and taboo romances are not for me. A book that immediately pops into my mind is Untouchable by Sam Mariano, I believe is the author, because the hero, like the person we're supposed to root for being with the heroine, at the beginning of that novel, he sexually assaults her. How the hell am I supposed to root for someone who sexually assaults people? I don't know. So really dark romances like that, I have no interest in picking up. Also, really complicated high fantasies, especially adult fantasies, like I mentioned with The Priory of the Orange Tree being one of those. I just find it really hard to wrap my head around those kinds of stories, and the world building, it's just a lot. You know, when I read for fun, and reading those kinds of books is just not fun for me, because I am using way too much brain power to try to understand what the hell is going on. And then very quickly, a couple of other genres that I don't care about is poetry and self-help books. I just don't care. So I thought I would quickly mention those genres as well. So then the next question is a book you bought that you know you're never gonna read. I think I've actually already gotten rid of this book now that I'm thinking about it, but that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Like I've just mentioned, I don't have any interest in reading complicated adult fantasies. I also really don't care about classic fantasy novels, and I tried reading like the first few pages of The Hobbit, and it was just not for me, unfortunately. Then we have series you have no interest in or series you started. So I'm not going to talk about any series that I've started that I don't plan on continuing with, because I'm going to be doing an entire video dedicated to that topic. So be on the lookout for that. I will mention some series that I have no interest in. The first one is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. These are going to be kind of random series, by the way. This is another book that when anybody, any booktuber describes what it's about, it just goes in one ear out the other. I can't tell you what this is about, except that there's like a group of, I think, 4 teenage boys that are really good friends, and then there's a girl, I guess the main character, who comes into play. Probably has a romance with one of them, or maybe all of them at some point throughout the series. I have no idea. And then another series, I gotta check my notes app here. 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. I will never pick up those books. I know that they are trash. I don't know anybody who like genuinely enjoys E.L. James's writing that I follow on BookTube. Yeah, that's all that needs to be said. Next is the Game of Thrones series by George R.R. Martin. We've already established that I'm not into a lot of adult fantasy series, and I think this is a pretty long series as well. They're very chunky books. I also never got into the TV show because I don't have HBO or any way of watching it, so yeah. Next is the Way of Kings series by, or what is it, the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. Yet again, another really complicated, chunky adult fantasy series that I don't care about. I remember Jess from Peace Love Books did a reading vlog where she read the first book, and the way that she described her reading experience, like, I know that it's not going to be the book for me. So the very last question is a new release that you do not plan on picking up. I'm going to mention 2. The first one is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. So I've read 3 books by Christina Lauren at this point, and it sounds like in general people tend to like their older releases more than their newer releases. In a Holidays was kind of a miss for me the more that I reflect on it. I really loved The Unhoneymooners, and I liked Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, but the plots of their more recent books also just don't sound all that great to me. I do, however, want to check out, what is it, Love in Other Words, and then what is it, the Beautiful Bastards series. I know that that's a really smutty series, and the books that they've been releasing nowadays are Fade to Black, which is kind of annoying to me, to be honest. And yeah, I just am not excited by their new books, basically. And then the second one that I want to mention, I think it's called People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. So I did read Beach Read by her last year. I gave it 3.5 stars. I was kind of underwhelmed by it, but I know so many people adored it. I think my main problem is that this turned more women's fiction than I wanted, and I just didn't emotionally connect to the 2 main characters, and so I really just don't care about picking up her new release. Even though I like the cover, I like the colors, but I have no idea what this new book is about. I didn't even bother requesting it off of NetGalley. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this anti-TBR tag. I hope that you enjoyed. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below telling me about some of the books and authors that you have no interest in reading and why. So that is going to be it for this video. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!